Hey, what's up everybody? Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that is a little bit overdue, which is the comparison of the ROG Ally to the Steam Deck. So this is a video that's been made by a lot of people, but I wanted to throw in my thoughts and opinions on this topic as well. So if that interests you, definitely stick around. So I've been using the Steam Deck, as you know, for quite a while. I got mine back in July of last year. So I've been using it almost a year. And this has been pretty much one of my main devices for playing games. If I go places, this is always in my bag, and it's served me pretty well. I have recently upgraded the SSD to a 1 terabyte. I also have a roughly 50-50 partition with Windows 11, so that way I can play some of the games that won't play on the Steam Deck, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and some things like that. But, overall, my impressions of the Steam Deck have been pretty positive. Of course, as with any device, there are going to be compromises. So one of the major ones, of course, with the Steam Deck is the fact that it runs Linux. So if that is a hindrance to you, one thing that's very nice about the ROG Ally is that it'll come standard with Windows 11. For me, I like the fact that the Steam Deck runs on Linux. It's a lower bloat operating system than Windows. It's very minimal, and so that's something that I really like. There are, of course, workarounds that you need to do to play a lot of games, like if you want to run Cyberpunk through GOG Galaxy, or if you want to run the Epic Games launcher or other things like that. There's sort of workarounds that may take a little bit of doing in order to actually get to work. Some games, like The Quarry and maybe some others, you'll need to do a little bit of fiddling with the Steam boot up options and other things like that. So it is a tinkerer's device, of course. But with that being said, I think if you do enjoy taking your games with you, at $399 for the base Steam Deck, this thing, I believe, is still going to be the king of portable, because you can't really get much better than this for $399. Now, I know that the ROG Ally, there's a lower spec version, which is about $500, and then there's the higher spec version for $700. I think pretty much everybody should just go for the higher end version, because there is a difference between the processor and GPU from the low end version to the high end version. That's not the case with the Steam Deck, and so I think that that's something that the Steam Deck still has a pretty big advantage over the ROG Ally with, is that with the Steam Deck, you just buy whatever storage capacity you want, and then you get the same specs other than the screen being etched, which I have since I got the 512 version, but that's not a huge upgrade. So if you guys just care about playing games on the go, my suggestion would be to simply get the low-end Steam Deck for $399 and buy a 512 gigabyte SSD or 1 terabyte, because that's going to be a pretty low price compared to what you'd pay Steam to get it all in one, and then just do the upgrade yourself. But with that being said, there are a couple of advantages that the ROG Ally has over the Steam Deck. Namely, it does have a 120 Hz 1080p display, which is, of course, going to be more resolution and a higher frame rate than the Steam Deck. So if that's something that you really care about, definitely go with the ROG Ally. I think that that's kind of one of the main selling points that the ROG Ally has. The other thing that the ROG Ally does have is it has a brand new CPU, so that's going to be the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme in the high spec version and the Z1 in the lower spec version. Also, in the high spec version, you get the Zen 4 architecture with the 4 nanometer process, and you get 8 cores, 16 threads in the high spec version with 24 megabytes of cache, up to 5.1 gigahertz boost clock, where in the base model you get a 6-core 12-thread CPU with 22 megabytes of cache, up to a 4.9 turbo as far as the GPU is concerned. And on the high spec version, The GPU that you get is going to be the RDNA 3 12CU with 2.7 gigahertz and up to 8.6 teraflops of compute power, where on the lower spec version you're going to get 4 CUs, 2.5 gigahertz, and about 2.8 teraflops. So that's sort of why I say that you should really only focus on the high spec version if you're going to get the ROG Ally, as the low-end version has only 2.8 teraflops, and with the high-spec version, for just $200 more, you get 8.6 teraflops, which is quite significantly more, and that will be a lot better of a processor for allowing you to play your games at or close to 1080p and close to 120 Hz in some games. Although you're not going to get 120 Hz in most modern games, you'll probably get right around 45 to 60 FPS. You know, you're definitely going to be compromising a little bit if you get the low-end version. But both of the processors, you can do 9-watt TDP all the way up to 30 watts. So again, that's another thing that's a little bit higher than the Steam Deck. But like I said, it's really not the end of the world. If you already have a Steam Deck, I would say probably hold out on getting the ROG Ally, as the Steam Deck performs pretty admirably still. You can play basically anything. You know, you can play Star Wars Jedi Survivor on this. It's not going to be the greatest experience in the world, but what PC port is. So, and if you are a gamer who prefers playing older games that have been around for a while, if you're into Batman, the Arkham series, every single one of those games performs exceptionally on the Steam Deck. You can play most of them with max settings, 60 FPS, no problem. And even if you have to drop down to 40 FPS, the great thing about the Steam Deck is that it has a variable refresh rate display that you can adjust manually from 60 Hertz all the way down to 40 Hertz. So that way 40 Hertz is native. So that's a really, really big advantage of the Steam Deck and SteamOS that the ROG Ally doesn't really have. The other thing that I think is very important to note about the Steam Deck is that it is a very console-like experience. You know, if you turn this thing on, it boots straight into SteamOS and you have this very nice touch-friendly layout. You have menus and other things that just sort of pop out, and it's very, very convenient. It's well thought out. Obviously, Valve put a lot of time and a lot of energy into making this a very easy to use device for anybody who is a primarily console user. Now, I'm a person who's been using PC for quite a while, but I do enjoy the convenience and simplicity of a console style experience, and that's exactly what you get with the Steam Deck. You do get something similar with the ROG Ally, to be fair. However, like I said, it is running Windows 11, and so you are going to be running into a couple of the issues that you will have with Windows 11, which is, you know, that the touch interface is not always the best. Try as they may, Windows has still not perfected the touchscreen experience, but it's not horrible. Also, Asus has developed their own game launcher and skin over top of Windows 11 that boots up right when your device turns on. However, from what I've seen in videos, it can be a little bit buggy, a little bit glitchy, and it's not exactly the best experience in the world. So it's one of those things where if that doesn't bother you, great. If it does bother you though, and you're really used to having a super smooth experience, the Steam Deck still might be the best option for you, even though it is over a year old at this point. But with that being said, I hope you guys liked this video. If you do feel like picking up either the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, definitely check down below in the description. Use the links there, see what's up, and I will see you guys in the next video.